2, 3.
Ya nggak sih?
Ya, itu mah.
Tolong orang Indonesia.
Serius, sumpah.
Maaf.
Oh my god, I feel now always like a teacher, and that sounds a bit arrogant, but I mean, one big question in life is, how do you know something?
If I learn.
If I learn, okay. So for example, I learn, or I teach you the Earth is in the middle of the universe. You learn this. Is that knowledge?
Yeah. But it's wrong.
It's wrong. Why is it wrong?
Because the sun is the center of
How do you know that the sun is the center?
Because I learned in the high school.
You learned in high school. Why did you learn at the high school?
Because it's important to know that.
Okay. And
It's a basic knowledge.
but how do you know that the teacher doesn't lie?
Because there's a book.
But how do you know that the book doesn't lie?
There's a scientific research.
Okay, so there's scientific research. What's scientific research? What do you think? How can you trust scientific research?
Because they are trophy. They can measure.
Kind of. Let's. I like to conclude that you trust them. You know.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I trust those scientists, you know?
Okay.
So, long time ago, it was, I think, Copernicus was that. Copernicus had just the idea to say, hey, the Earth is not the sun of the universe, or of the solar system, it's the sun. And the reason for that was that he did something that we call today empirical research. So, he was looking for something. He was looking on the planet and on the movement of the planets, on the mechanics of the planets, and then he just tried to calculate a little bit, and he figured out it's much easier to think the sun is in the center of the solar system. It's easier to explain something, and it's also easy for other people to test that. That's really important in science. So if you research something, you have to do that with a special method, and that's the reason why you have this method, in order to make sure that all your process to research something is controlled. And there's also a reason for that, because other people can test, they can repeat your research. Yeah. For example, a lot of people tried at this time to make sure that Copernicus is wrong. But he was never wrong. He just was never wrong. Yeah. So they invented something and they were always wrong. Yeah. Because this theory was really, really good. Okay. How does a conspiracy theory works? So the main idea about a conspiracy theory is you can never falsify the theory. What does it mean? So for example, I said you can test the Copernicus research, right? You can test that, right? So maybe you come with another model, and this model figured out that it's easier to explain all the things you see, and so the theory is wrong, you know? You understand? That's the idea about science. So the main idea about science is to make sure that something is wrong. You always try to falsify that, you know? You try to figure out that this theory is wrong, and this starts a research process. Yeah. So a lot of people think what you do in science is like you look for a lot of proofs for your research. You collect the proofs. It's exactly the opposite. You have the theory, you figure out from the theory, and the theory tells you something about the world, and you try to make sure that the theory is wrong. And if a lot of people try this with a lot of methods and the theory is always right, it doesn't mean that the theory is true, but it means like it's a good theory. Yeah.
Oh.
You kind of understand.
Yeah. So if there's a theory, we have to always do something that make it wrong.
Make it wrong. Try to figure out how can you make it wrong. But imagine, even you try to make it wrong, it's
That's
nevertheless
always
right. A good example.
So it's never right actually, but they never wrong.
Exactly. It's a bit, you understand?
Okay.
Einstein is a good example. Einstein relativity theory was at this time revolutionary. And for a lot of physics, it was not, let's say, they couldn't believe that their ideas about physics is suddenly wrong. But Einstein did it with mathematics, very logical. So they could see, okay, the theory in its whole is logically correct, but we try to figure out maybe there is a mistake. Maybe there is something we see in the world. Maybe we can research something that figured out this theory is wrong. And actually, all physics failed. Because Einstein theory was always the best theory to explain the world. Yeah? When it's about space and time and, you know. Because Einstein theory also predicts something. That's important. A theory not only explains something, it also predicts something. Yeah? So, for example, in Einstein theory, you can make those calculations and then it figures out, I don't know, for example, a planet moves with that speed around this and light like this and this, you know? You understand? Okay. This is something about scientific and empirical research. Yeah, empirical research. In philosophical research, or when it's about history or arts, it's a bit more difficult. But what I mean is like, the main question is always, what's about knowledge? What is knowledge? How do we know something? And one important thing is that today we say that it's difficult to make something true. True is only something that you can find a logic. Yeah, 1 + 1 is 2. Yeah, so it's true. But today we say, okay, when there is kind of objective reality. So, for example, you have a theory that a knowledge is something that you can see in the reality. Let's say, okay. I told you something about it's important to make a theory wrong, right? I told you. Okay, and now start. There's a nice term for that. It's called falsification. Falsification. Okay. So make something wrong. Okay. What about conspiracy theory? Let's talk about conspiracy theory. So you told me about this guy for Jakarta government, and you said he's very intelligent and so on. Okay, very nice. Okay. And he says something about, what was it, elementary school 6-6?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
The nonsense lah.
So what he does is he concludes from one thing to another thing. So he says like 6-6, and kind of this number 666 is kind of really, really important for him. Can you prove him wrong?
Yes.
Okay, do you think he will accept that?
No.
Exactly. And this is something very typical from conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory, you can never prove them as wrong. They are always right within this logic of the conspiracy theory. Yeah? Okay?
Okay.
So, and that's the reason why they sound so easy, you know? Let's talk about this conspiracy theory about Bill Gates. Bill Gates invented the virus, right? And he said that everybody should get a chip. Are we able to prove him wrong? We are not able to do that. Because within this logic of a conspiracy theory, you can never prove them wrong. They are always right. Because then they start to say, yeah, but there is an organization that controls this. Or there is a special knowledge or whatever. You know what I mean? So those theories can never be falsified. And that's the reason why they are not scientific. Yeah?
Okay.
So a conspiracy theory is not a scientific theory. It's more a way to argue for something, because they bring always new arguments, you know. There is a good argument against the conspiracy theory. For example, you told me about this Jakarta guy, and if he knows that about Bill Gates, and Bill Gates is so powerful, why does Bill Gates accept that this guy tells something to the world? You understand? So why? So Bill Gates is so powerful. He invents a virus. He invents a chip for the people. You know. For me, it sounds logic to think if a guy is so powerful, then it's also easy to kill this guy or to make sure that he says something different. You know. And of course, in the world, in the history, there were always conspiracies, of course. But there's one big difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy. The conspiracy theory is usually very large. So it's not only about, we wanna kill the Pope in the Vatican in order to make sure that the new Pope comes, something like that. I don't know, yeah? Usually those conspiracy theories are really, really, really big. So they talk about, imagine that. There is Bill Gates and he invents something like a virus in the whole world. So it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that, yeah? And that's a typical sign for a conspiracy theory. They are very large. You can never make them wrong. You can never prove them as wrong, yeah? So, and this has a lot to do with how do you trust in the world, yeah? I don't believe those theories because I don't believe that there is a kind of organization or something very big, or I don't know, who can control the world that perfectly, you know. I just don't believe that. I don't think it's like that, yeah. You know, for example, and then the third thing, I think that's also important to know. You talk about intelligence. Intelligence has nothing to do with knowledge. Nothing. A lot of people think, wow, intelligent people are very like... No, it's not like that. Yeah? It's really not like that. Yeah?
Why?
Because intelligence doesn't tell you something about how you see your own knowledge. It tells you something about how fast can you think, how fast can you connect, how fast can you learn. This is something about intelligence. But it's not about how you connect your knowledge, you know. It's a bit like you have a car. The car is intelligent, but it doesn't tell you anything about how you decide to go from one place to another place or where you go. You know what I mean? You have a car with a good engine, that's high intelligent, yeah? It's very fast, that's intelligent. You understand the analogy? Yeah? Our brain, our human brain, was not made to create very precise empirical solutions for the world. Yeah? Our brain is perfect to survive somewhere in wildlife. So it was for our brain, for our humans, in order to survive, very important to come very quick to a fast solution. Yeah? So that's it. So we are really good in connecting something very fast. So while we were in wildlife, yeah, Stone Age, yeah, and we saw the lion. For our brain, it was necessary to identify that animal as a lion and as dangerous within 1 second. We are extremely good in that, yeah, to come very quick to solutions. But today, when we talk about empirical research, knowing something about the world, this is something that blocks us a little bit. We are sometimes too fast in our thinking, yeah. And like I said, we are very good in connection. I think this guy from the Indonesian government, I don't know. This is now a bit psychologically, but I don't know. He worked as a spy, right? So his work was all the time to identify people who could be a danger, but they don't show that as a danger. So usually people from secret service, military, they are usually a bit attracted to conspiracy theories, yeah, because it's their job. Policemen too, yeah, they have to look for dangers, they have to look for criminality, and criminal people doesn't come and say, hey, I'm criminal, they hide themselves, yeah, but so I think that's also the reason why a guy like that for him is very difficult to trust it, yeah? Or to learn to trust in something. He doesn't believe in that, yeah?
Because the whole life is like that, yeah.
Work and the conditions how you live shapes your thinking very much, very, very much. Not only religion or culture. We always talk about culture, but also work. The way you think, the influence you have, what is good, what is bad, yeah, moralic values, all this is shaping your thinking, yeah, and intelligence doesn't mean that you start to open your mind, yeah, it can also be the opposite, yeah, that you sharpen your mind, you close your mind, you close your thinking, and you are really attracted by just one thing and think this is the only thing that we can believe in. Was that too much?
No.
And I meant for him, this conspiracy theories makes absolute sure. For him, it makes sense. It's kind of it constitutes his world, his perspective on his world. Everybody of us has an own way to think about the world, yeah, to see the world, what's important, what's not important, what is good, what is bad. Yeah? These are fundamental psychological or human questions, what we always have, For some people it makes sense to think there is a God, for other people it doesn't make sense. Yeah. For some people it makes sense that Bill Gates has invented coronavirus. Okay. Yeah. But we are not able to convince him because he's believing in a conspiracy theory. In conspiracy theories you cannot disprove it if you go that from a more scientific point of view.